Yes, welcome everyone to what we're calling the Great Scotch Debate. With me today is Mike Silbert. Mike, welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to be on the show. Nothing artificial about intelligence today, and let's listen to these punters and have them explain this rapidly moving and developing area.
Well, today it's all about new versus old, tradition versus innovation. We've got vintage versus modern. It's OSCs versus current students. And what are they going to be debating today, Mike?
So the topic, if you can see it on the screen behind us.
Right behind us.
We regret the rise of Chat GPT. Not picking on Chat GPT necessarily, but I think that's the generic way that we're describing this very, very rapid ascent of artificial intelligence in the, if you like, in the retail world that's been rolled out in the last sort of 3 to 4 months with incredible speed and has impacted everywhere, particularly in schools and in education. There's great worrying and gnashing of teeth. We want to find out a little bit more about it.
Absolutely.
Through the eyes of these two teams, the youngies and the crusties. So on the Scotch team, we've got Rob Eastman, Andrew Walker and Jason Pocock, who are all Year 12s. And this is just a warm-up debate for their proper waddle debate tonight. This is just the curtain raiser. But at the end of a very big work day for the Scotch boys, we've got Mac Hanlin from 2015, Ty Haberland from 2014 and Heath Muller from 2021. So 2 minutes each. You can decide your order. It's pretty fast and loose. We want to hear the most outrageous, the most engaging, the most exciting things. We want to be scared out of our wits about Chat GPT, and on the other hand, we want to be reassured that all technology is wonderful.
But first we need to decide who's taken which side. We're going to go with the classic footy coin flip. I'm going to put the onus here on the Year 12s. They are in their home ground advantage here. So one of the Year 12s, as I flip the coin, call it out in the air, and then you can decide which side you're taking of the debate.
Tails.
Went a bit far, that one.
Have you agreed on a...
Tails? You have one with that one with tails. So which side of the debate will you be taking?
We'll take the negative side.
Negative side goes to the Year 12s. That means our OSCs will be arguing in the affirmative. I think that's about time for us to break out into our rooms.
Yeah, let's go for a word from our sponsors, whoever they might be. Cut to the sponsors.
Give us a ring, yeah. Now, Ray, AI is on everyone's mind, but can you explain AI, Chat GPT? Why is it so important for us these days?
Look, everything's changing, and everything's changing faster than every last decade. So this time we're picking up into all the new technologies that are going to assist where we go. AI is going to be critical to that delivery.
Now, we are, of course, in a school. What role does AI play in schools of the future?
Educational opportunity, knowledge brokering, a whole range of idea creation and idea testing.
Now, Ray, you obviously have a great admiration and respect for artificial intelligence. So my question is, when the robot uprising comes, whose side are you on?
Well, the rise of the machines is something we need to avoid, and so therefore we've got to build in ethical algorithms into this that actually help manage it and actually direct it in the right way. Asimov's principles apply here. We don't want machines to harm us, and so therefore we've got to be able to build that into the software that we develop. And of course there will be fellows with minions hanging off on the corner waiting for their evil empires to grow, and we really have to be able to manage and contain those as well.
Now behind us we've got our boys here. They're preparing their debates. Do we regret the rise of AI, of Chat GPT? What kind of points are they going to be looking at today?
Well, they're on the they're on the negatives, so they're the negative of negatives. So therefore, there's no regrets. And so the challenge here is, how do they embrace the new technology? Where do they take that to?
And how about our OSCs? They're arguing the affirmative today.
The risks that are involved. We need to keep control of the system. The system needs to aid us, not harm us. And so within that, we've got to address a whole range of ethical and governance issues to ensure that can happen.
Okay, this is the Old Scotch Collegians team in the background. Brains Trust just getting ready for their part in this Chat GPT artificial intelligence debate. I'll just quickly go around the grounds and see who's pulled a hammy already before the bounce down. Mac Hanlin.
Hello.
We're worried about the government. Who owns the development path?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the question, right?
It's the first major technology that's been actually brought to bear out of the hands of state actors.
Yes, I mean, you see a development path like this all the time. This was, the internet was a classic one for this, but I think the difference here is that the pace of these changes, and you actually have some pretty pernicious sort of harms that are being brought onto people in ways that are probably a bit different to what we've seen before.
You'll stand by for pernicious harms. I like that. All right, and the next set of thoughts. The ability to do without cheap, nasty people in the world. And,
Sorry.
replace labour completely.
Well, I think that is something that we're going to have to deal with in our case, but we do think that Chat GPT and other AI opens up opportunities outside of the jobs that it displaces. And so, yeah, we are going to.
So we're after a new economy, a Chat GPT, or in fact an AI-driven economy.
Yeah, and sort of unpacking the harms of that is what we're going to deal with in our case.
Nice. Ty, the legal implications of, for instance, the upper echelons of our professions who previously thought they were safe and sound because they were absolutely brilliant.
Yes, the cookie cutter boilerplate clauses that you copy and paste from a precedent can now basically be done just as good as you can do it, especially at a junior level. And I think that many in those with encyclopedic knowledges are now starting to have to face the reality that these things can wear up just as good as they can.
And the hand wringing that we talked about before, and the ability to roll back some of the anxiety and the instant overreaction to say, let's just ban this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, OpenAI is Elon and Bill Gates themselves helped fund them, and then now they're the ones saying, put those stops on. It's odd.
It's odd. Let's wait for odd, and we'll see these boys when they are on their feet. We'll give them some chance to talk to Professor Ray about their expert questions.
I'm here in the room with some of our Year 12s who, as I speak, are still working hard away, but I might just interrupt them for a couple questions. Sorry, boys, excuse me. Just need to ask you a couple questions. Look, first of all, maybe an incriminating one. Have you ever used Chat GPT in an assignment?
Only for research.
Only for research, he says.
As a research tool, but I find that it gives me fake citations, so it's not a reliable...
Are you going to say research as well?
I might have to.
So no pre-written paragraphs or anything?
I don't think I can comment on this too much, to be honest.
All right, boys, how are we doing in our prep today?
Not badly. I think we've come up with a good sort of central argument and are now just kind of fleshing out exactly what we can do with it. So,
all right, guys, can you give us any hints as to what your argument's going to be about? I'm seeing a lot of work on the whiteboard here. Maybe some more whiteboard work than there is next door. What's your thesis going to be?
Well, I think we've kind of, using Ray, come up with the idea that change is inevitable, and so we have to embrace it no matter what, because if we don't, it's still going to happen. So we might as well make the most of what we've got and embrace it in order to manage it and get the most out of what we can do with it.
Thank you, boys, and good luck. All right, Mike, our teams have had their time prepping. It's been about 15 minutes. We had a bit of a chat to them. I'm seeing some sparks flying. I'm seeing some strong debates coming out. Are you feeling excited?
I'm seeing a lot of really strong process from the Scotch boys. They're clearly in their zone. I'm not sure how rusty the old boys are, but there's definitely some exciting ideas brewing up on the Affirmative team. We're going to start with the Affirmative team.
We are going to start with our OSCs.
And we will start. The number one speaker for the OSCs is Heath Muller. He's studying economics at UWA. Heath, stand and deliver.
The robots are taking over. When I say this, it's not just technological fear-mongering, because there is a key difference between Chat GPT and other online resources that we've seen before, and that is the pace at which it's developing. We say that the internet has existed for decades now, and we've seen just recently the fact that members of the US Congress have no clue how it works. They don't know if when they access TikTok that whether or not their home Wi-Fi is being accessed or not. We say that when language models like Chat GPT are evolving at the rate at which they are evolving, how can the government possibly stop this? The main contention from the affirmative side of the House is twofold. Firstly is that at this current point in time, Chat GPT has the capacity to be weaponized and is being weaponized for serious disinformation, which is pernicious on many levels. And secondly, in our second speech, that this is corrupting the minds of the young people. So why is it the case that this is being weaponized for disinformation? And why is that harmful? Because people can't tell what's real anymore. To the extent that these things are being used in scams where people's voices are being replicated, where parents are being rung up and AI models are replicating the voices of their children and scamming them out of their own money, people are unable to tell what is real anymore. But secondly, because these models are able to mine through immense amounts of data that humans just cannot. That is to say that they can interpret a person's online presence and understand how they can be targeted to the fullest extent. And in that sense, they are targeted with ads which amount to coercion. We saw how things like this were used in the 2016 election against Trump to sway people in his favor. These things get so much worse with ChatGPT and the capacity that this has. This is different from other forms of technology because, like we said, government already can't regulate things like social media where people's identity can actually be identified. When we have things like AI models, we have no idea who they are, but secondly, AI can itself figure out ways around this. That is why it was so harmful. We won this debate.
A very strong opening coming from the affirmative side. Weaponization, scams, and the US Congress.
Altogether. The US Congress has never been my judge of, well, anything, but particularly coming to grips with technology. But it's a good point.
Especially intelligence, even artificial one.
Let's hear from the first speaker for the negative. This is Jason Pocock.
You've got it wrong.
I've got it wrong. It's Andrew Walker.
No.
Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Andrew's just come out of an intensive rowing season where he almost rode for the firsts.
Almost.
He rode number 12 or number 13 for the firsts. Managed to get into the seconds.
Yeah.
On your marks?
Yeah. I quite frankly find it insulting that these fossils think they have the right to go against our case when Ty and Mac only figured out what Chat GPT was 15 minutes ago. And Heath's just mad that he didn't get to use it for his Year 12 finals. As a negative team, I, as the first speaker, will be mainly talking about how change is inevitable, and we, as the good actors, should be working to embrace this. But firstly, I will be rebutting Heath and his, quite frankly, appalling points. Overall, he's talking about ChatGPT's capacity to be weaponized, but my question is, by who? If he's talking about how ChatGPT can be altered by programmers, code can be checked, and there are definitely policies in place to ensure that there is no programmer bias. And in fact, programmer bias cannot exist if ChatGPT, as a language-based data scraper, has no capacity to output programmer bias that the programmers believe they can input into, spreading misinformation. He's also arguing that ChatGPT is getting to a point where it's almost too advanced, for example, with recognizing identities and targeting ads. However, the whole point of ChatGPT, and this will be leading on to my point, the whole point is that it's supposed to make our lives easier. By allowing for more targeted things like ads are not the best, but by allowing for things to be personalized, we enjoy a better ease of life, thanks to ChatGPT and therefore AI. But I'll be talking about how, by limiting the rise of ChatGPT and, by extension, AI in general, we as the good actors deliberately stunt our economic growth and other aspects compared to the bad actors. Failing to support our general population by deliberately limiting the use of ChatGPT and, by association, AI, we limit things such as advancements in medical and healthcare services. And finally, if ChatGPT is inevitable, what's the point in slowing down? If we're going to get to a point where ChatGPT is so immersive in our culture, why would we let other countries get there first and benefit while we can't? Thank you.
Now, it's a bold strategy to come out and call your opponents fossils, but I like it.
Oh, no, go the personal attack.
Go
up
the
front, I
personal.
say. It's
Ad
all
hominem attacks
excellent.
aren't allowed. Yeah.
And then
Who's
getting
next?
into the argument, the benefit of all mankind. There's no better argument for anything.
Love to hear it.
Now, let's see if I can actually get this right. Ty Haberland, are you the second speaker for the affirmative side? Ty's a lawyer, and so am I, and we won't hold it against you if you sledge us for it, but let's give him 2 minutes, starting now.
Thank you. My dear opponents represent a start of a new generation who I truly believe is going to be reliant on this technology, and that is why we regret the rise of it. Chat GPT is trained only until September 2021, and this information, for better or worse, reflects where society is at this current time. The good, the bad, the ugly, this is the sum of all human information. And that bias, the programmer bias that we see, is already happening. OpenAI do actively censor. You cannot make certain jokes, you cannot make certain statements on there, and the censoring of it is already calling for open source technologies to come out and replace such closed-door Silicon Valley technology. Students are going to end up basically using this, time warp of where we are just stuck, and there is no more creation to happen. Nobody's going to be creating new pieces of articles, of critical thinking, knowledge, expertise. All of these domains which typically define intelligence in a human being are going to end up being essentially replaced with what we see people just essentially prompting and receiving output and going, well, that's good. The AI said it's okay. And we suddenly think that that is the arbiter of truth and what we need to be looking for. And as a result of that, I think that these students will end up becoming somewhat stupider as a result. They are not going to have that critical thinking element of being able to look at information and say, hey, that's not right, because this is going to just get better, faster, more powerful, and all of a sudden, why would you write anything when you can just look it up, when you can just prompt it? And I think beyond that, this is just going to stop human information as we know it. The entirety of the human race might just end up stopping at 2021. Thank you.
Ending on a very grim note there.
It's like watching Terminator in fast forward.
I felt there was some inspiration from Wall-E there. The humanity ended when it got lazy. Yeah,
Sure,
some Terminator.
Sure, I like that. And a narrow reading of the topic. We're talking about Chat GPT, not all of AI, which is a good interpretive approach to take. Let's see what comes back on the other side. This time I think we are talking to Jason, or Jason's talking to us. Jason's a Year 12 who's recently shaved his head for leukemia, and he's a black belt in karate, gentlemen.
Watch out.
Careful. And off you go.
The opponents have come out here with this absurd argument that somehow ChatGPT as a language AI model not only is somehow going to make society worse, that somehow it's going to deteriorate people's minds, but it's going to become even worse, and that it's going to corrupt young people's minds. But in fact, if I go on just from rebuttal to a start, the second speaker's whole concept was the idea that ChatGPT makes young people stupider, that it means that students are somehow not learning as much content, that they're not learning these skills about critical thinking. But in fact, the opposite is exactly true. When you have ChatGPT, which will then lead into my own argument, when you have ChatGPT as a language model that can get rid of all these little bits and pieces that are left over trawling through Google Scholar or JSTOR or any of these other huge databases of content, what you're doing is you're wasting students' time, you're wasting researchers' time, you're wasting people's time. What they could be doing is when they're trying to find cures to cancer, when they're trying to find these, if we're looking at researchers finding new mechanisms of saving the planet, for example, this is what ChatGPT is doing. It's giving people more free time to do the things that they want to do. For students, it means that they have more free time to do things that are actually important for their education, like going outside, making friends, going on camps, getting exercise, for example. These are all the things that ChatGPT can save you time on. And on top of that, it also saves you time when it comes to things such as, say, learning content in classrooms. You're not instead of spending 3 periods trying to, find the right websites to use, you've got the websites there for you because ChatGPT can do that for you. It can be helpful that way. And then in class, all you need to do is to, you can learn the content, for example. You can understand what ChatGPT is saying. You're not becoming stupider. You're becoming smarter because you have more time to do the things that you want to do, that you need to do, and that are frankly the main reasons why you're at school in the first place. Not to go through Wikipedia. That's not what ChatGPT is for. This is why ChatGPT is such a valuable tool. It saves so much time, it saves so much effort, it saves so much energy for so many people involved, be it students, researchers, the broader society. This is why we don't regret it. Why would you regret a technology that is so good for the population? Proud to negate.
So Jason's argument there was on wasting time and saving time, and let me tell you, he did not waste a second there.
He got 4.5 minutes of argument into that 2 minutes, which
Yeah,
was exceptional.
I was blown back from the first second.
And the argument is the rise of the leisure class, the rise of the ability to be smarter.
Yeah.
I like that.
Squeezed a lot in there, Jason.
Let's see what Big Mac Hanlon's got to say. He's a management consultant, so everybody will have lent him their ideas and he can regurgitate them in one way or another, and we'll see where that comes out.
Tell you what, I'm pretty excited to get home tonight. Put into Chat GPT how to cure cancer, and then presumably become the world's richest and most famous man. Because gee whiz, if that's what the negative side think Chat GPT is all about, and it's going to save us from time to be able to do things like find the cure for cancer, I don't think they understand how academia actually works. But I think, look, in this discussion, Michael's pretty right. The US Congress shouldn't really be the arbiter as to what technology is and how it's used. The problem is that they are, and they are the ones that set the laws and regulate the way in which we use technology and things like the internet. The World Wide Web was invented in 1991. Wi-Fi was invented in 1997. 2 weeks ago, Republican Representative Richard Hudson asked the CEO of TikTok, how does TikTok access my home Wi-Fi? If those idiots think that they're going to be able to regulate the bigger, more complex beast that is Chat GPT, my God, we are in strife. And I think that speaks to the reason why we do regret this particular technology, because it is pretty problematic. It is so much more of a complex beast. There are so many more ways in which it can be used in a negative way. It can be used to actually do things like mimic my voice, call my mother up and say, hey, can you deposit money into this particular account because I've been locked out of it and I've also been locked out of my phone. It can do things like the destruction of low-level jobs. And the question at the end of the day is, who are the ones that are going to regulate that? Who are the people that are going to decide what is real and what is constructed? And who are the ones that are going to educate these people about what academia actually looks like and how we do go about solving problems in the world? Hint, it's about doing things like research on your own without the use of technology like Chat GPT. This is a problem. It can't be regulated, particularly by morons that don't know what they're doing. So proud to propose.
Now, Mac in his time was debating captain, and it feels like riding a bike, doesn't it, Mac? You jumped straight back into that.
Straight back on, and that was all done with one breath.
One breath,
there was no sentences, no full stops. It was awesome.
All in one.
All right.
Final speaker.
Final speaker for the negative is Jason Eastman. He's an IB student who's playing
Rob
tennis.
Eastman.
Could I get this right? All right, so
I think we're taking points off you today, Mark.
Yeah, I've come 7th out of 6. Rob Eastman is still a tennis player and an IB student, whether I introduce him properly or not. He's going to take 2 minutes and just lull us back into a sense where we just feel a little bit more comfortable about life, I think.
So, yeah. To embrace change is to be able to manage it. And to fail to acknowledge the fact that change is happening and to regret it is to force ourselves to step back and allow it to happen by itself. And obviously, we can see where the danger arises there. If change happens by itself and we have no hand in guiding it, how are we going to avoid all the negative implications that the affirmative has suggested? And I think the affirmative has also misconstrued the idea of this topic. They've presented ChatGPT as this engine that is able to allow students to be lazy and not teach them how to do the schoolwork and the research that they need to do. And we would just like to argue that, as we said at first speaker, ChatGPT itself is a data scraper. It is simply Google but better. It is something that collects information off of the internet and puts it together. It does not synthesize information. It does not create new knowledge. And so that comes down to, I think, the key argument of this debate, which is obviously whether ChatGPT is good or bad. But they've argued all of this, and we've argued, obviously, that change is inevitable, and this is something that we have to embrace. And so what actually does ChatGPT allow us to do? Well, first, it doesn't allow us to create new knowledge. It allows us to look at existing knowledge and
put it together. That means it does not allow us to it does not synthesize knowledge for us. We still must synthesize this knowledge in order to create a bigger picture, in order to actually learn something about this knowledge, and in order to create new knowledge. And so the argument that this is some sort of threat to academia itself, and it is something that corrupts the ability of students to do well in school and to actually learn things is quite simply a falsehood, because it does not teach us to synthesize. We must synthesize still ourselves, and we must actually put together knowledge ourselves, and we must use this to put together knowledge. That means that ChatGPT is inherently a tool. It's not something that's going to change anything. It's not actually artificial intelligence. It's actually simply something that allows us to change how we're viewing the world, and is something that is coming anyway. And so we argue that it is just simply Google but better, and by embracing it, we improve our efficiency and nothing more. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Inspiring from the first moment, that speech.
Absolutely right.
A little bit of a trip up in the middle, but you made it through.
Cutting through to really one of the themes that has been on every single podcast about this topic for the last 3 months. Is it a tool or a weapon? It's a really important point, and according to these blokes, it's a tool.
According to the others, it's a weapon. You and I now have the fun task of deciding the winner out of these two.
Let's take a little break here. Back to our sponsors.
It was the Western Derby here in town on the weekend, but let me tell you, I've seen a bigger rivalry here. This was a hard one to pick today.
I think there were fewer injuries, but a lot of points scored.
All right. Well, Mike and I and Ray have just gone into another room. We've discussed some of the points that were brought up, the way those were brought up. Ray, you said early on that you think punctuation might have been a little underused in this debate, and they only did have 2 minutes, so you can understand why. But we have reached a decision, Mike, have we?
We've reached a decision, very, very, very close and very difficult, as everybody who's got to this stage in the podcast will, I think, agree.
Yes.
We've come down on the side of...
Our Year 12 boys.
Year 12
The negative side has won this. Look, it was a close one, but they just had those better arguments. They were more optimistic. I just liked what they were saying more.
Youthful optimism. You crusty old bastards.
Oh, just hated the technology, don't like what's going on, just stuck to their old ways. So, for our winners, Andrew, Jason and Rob, we have our proper prizes here. Box of chockies, and I think there's a gift card in there as well. And look, the OSC boys did come down, so we've got some consolation prizes. The same chocolates, just no gift card.
That's a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah. That has been the first edition of the Great Scotch Debate. Hopefully many more to come. I've enjoyed myself. Have you, Mike?
I've enjoyed myself immensely, and thank you, all of you, for your time. And as I said, if you've made it through to this part of the podcast, it's important probably to note that we are in the first week of April 2023. And if you're listening to this in the third week of April 2023, then everything you've heard is now out of date. This thing's moving so fast, and it's incredible to be living with something that is evolving at the rate of change that it is.
That about takes us to the end of the day here. Big thanks to our OSCs, to our Year 12s, to our expert in Ray, Mike, to yourself, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's organised this. That'll do us.
That's it. Thanks, everybody. Good night.